Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the American Innovator. We have a very, very special show today. We have Ken Mogi on the line with us right now on a Skype call. And Ken is the author of a book that I've been reading. Welcome, Ken, to the American Innovator.
Wow, it's such a pleasure to be on the show.
Nice to meet you, too. I love your hair.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, my gosh, you have the best hair in the whole world. I wish I had that much hair.
You're great too.
Yeah, thank you. How old are you, Ken?
56.
And I'm 58.
How about you?
58.
Oh, okay, great. So about the same age, I think,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Awakening your Ikigai. So the cool thing about this book is I'm really into Japan. Ken already knows that because we talked a little bit offline.
Yeah.
And I love the Japanese culture. I love the Japanese people. I love the way the Japanese think. And so to be turned on to this book, Ikigai, was just so incredible. I read it 3 times already. I listened to it audio on Audible, and it's just fantastic. And I'm probably going to listen to it at least 2 or 3 times more. So Ken, before we get going, I just want to give our listeners a little background. Tell people about yourself, your educational background, who you are, what you do, and then we're going to get into why you wrote the book.
I have a PhD in physics from University of Tokyo, and I did some postdoc research in University of Cambridge, UK. And right now I'm half industry, half academic person because I teach at universities. And at the same time, I work at the Sony Computer Science Laboratory in Tokyo, which is a fundamental science research lab funded by Sony. And I also do some television, radio works. So I kind of describe myself as a scientist, writer, and broadcaster. A bit like you yourself, Paul.
Yeah. So, and how many books have you written?
In Japanese, there should be more than 100 books.
100?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, you're too much.
It's a kind of
amazing.
It's a kind of
wow.
Franchise, really.
So, Ken, is this your most popular book?
Usually write self-help books. Supported by evidence from neuroscience and cognitive science and so on, but also write novels, which are not so popular as I hoped them to be. And I publish essays and so on. So kind of I have a person of many things.
You are fascinating. Wow, that is fantastic.
Yeah,
so let's talk about. No, I'm nothing, but whatever. That's very nice of you. I attribute a lot of my success, Ken, I don't know if you're aware of this, to what I've learned in Japan over the last 20 years.
I know you're an expert on Toyota production system, TPS, and I think we have cross connections, between us. Not to mention Ichiro, the great baseball player.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He is amazing. Yeah, yes. He always, whenever he went at the bat, he pulled his shoulder up like that. You remember this?
Oh, yeah. That's
He was incredible,
right. No, I was just trying to say that Ichiro is actually an ideal, model in lean manufacturing that, really, the aspect, the special subject that you are really expert in. And, because his way of producing hits after hits and home runs. It's a very beautiful, I think, example of the lean manufacturing system. In the game of baseball, very important to control your bat swing, your arms and legs in a certain way to get a maximum result. In the case of Ichiro, it will be the number of hits and so on. So in order to do that, you apply very detailed a system of self-observation, self-discipline, training, which is quite actually in the same ballpark, so, if you like, as the people at Toyota are doing in everyday work, manufacturing process. So I think actually Ichiro and Toyota actually have a lot in common. And you are aware that Ichiro actually came from that particular area where Toyota was founded.
I didn't know that, Ken. That's fascinating. So, and I think it's fantastic that you obviously know about the Toyota production system, very process oriented, very all about continuous improvement. And that is probably why I was so attracted to your book, because this is another example of how I can continually improve my life by understanding my Ikigai. And
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful concept. So let's explain to the listener what Ikigai is.
Yeah. Ikigai, quite simply, is the reason you get up every morning, because you get up in the morning and probably you start your day with a cup of coffee or tea, and you take your dog for a walk and so on. So it can be these small things in your daily life. But at the same time, Ikigai can be your life's ultimate goal, what you would like to achieve in your life. So it's something that is in the spectrum of small things and to the really big things. So I think it's a very uniquely Japanese attitude to approach life from this, spectrum of things, as opposed to the Western idea of, for example, Ten Commandments,
Absolutely.
which describes really important aspects of our life.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
rigid. Yeah.
But at the same time, you might actually miss something that is something small, but something that is very important in your life. So it's a realization that life is composed of these small things up to the really big things. That is, I think, the unique aspect of Ikigai.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this correctly. So if my Ikigai could be that I love getting up every morning and having green tea and watching the sunrise when I do yoga, that is really that really turns me on. But at the same time, my Ikigai is something as big as wanting to change the world by teaching people continuous improvement, the beauty of the Toyota production
Yeah,
system. So it could be both, and they're both equally important. Is that correct?
sure. That's right. That's right. So it is this diversity of objectives and values that is a hallmark of Ikigai. And I think, as you are very aware of the Japanese culture, that is something that the Japanese people are traditionally good at. Because after all, Japan is a country where people used to believe that there were 8 million gods,
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
different gods, just not just one god, but 8 million gods. Yeah, that was the traditional way to think about the world. So the Japanese tend to think the world not as a place where one principle dominate, but as a place where many different values can coexist at the same time. And I think it's a really realistic to look at your life, actually.
Yes, and so this is a fascinating concept because, as you know, I teach in Japan all the time. I'm going to be there in 2 weeks, and I'm going to be doing two
Yeah,
more Japan study missions. And I always get people to understand the Japanese are they're big picture and they're long term. They're not thinking 10 years, they're not thinking 20, they're thinking 30, 40, 50, 100 years. They have this huge view and perspective on everything, but at the same time they're so absolutely precise about the smallest detail, and that's very important. And I think this is uniquely Japanese. I've never seen it anywhere else in the world that does this. And this meshes perfectly with Ikigai. Am I getting that correct? It's why Ikigai is
you're
so
spot on.
potent.
You are
Go ahead.
spot on there.
Mm.
So yeah, that's correct. In the Ikigai book, I write about this shrine in Ise Grand Shrine, where they have been rebuilding the building every 20 years for the last 1,300 years.
I
Yeah,
couldn't believe
the,
it. It's
but
incredible.
yeah, but yeah, in order to do that, you have to plan very carefully because you have to have a huge log, to build a shrine, and you have to plant the trees hundreds of years ahead for people in later generations to make use of. So that's the long-term aspect of planning. But at the same time, you have to pay attention, as you said, to the very smallest details in the everyday rituals conducted at the shrine. too. So as you say, it's it involves both short-term and long-term goals to do that. So I think it's in the Japanese culture to do that. As I don't know about the United States, maybe not
No,
so
not so
much
much.
long-term.
No, not so much at all. I think that's why I'm so enthralled with the Japanese culture, because this way of thinking has enriched my life at such a high level. I love my country. I love everything that it stands for in many regards, but at the same time, I feel like I've missed that. Like, it's not about just right now. It's what's going to happen 100 years from now. Most people are not even thinking like that. But at the same time, are you getting it exactly and precisely right, or are you sloppy? Because my next book is banishing sloppiness and
Uh-huh.
falling in love with precision.
Uh-huh.
And that is
That's great.
all based on me walking down the street in Nagoya after being in Japan for 16 years and thinking to myself, what is it about the Japanese people that's so different from me? And all of a sudden I realized I'm sloppy and they're very precise. And so I realize I have this keen goal of banishing the sloppiness and then falling in love with precision in the same way the Japanese they relish it. They relish getting all these details right. They're all important. What would you say to that? Am I
Yeah,
correct in that?
well, yeah, that's right. But I should also say that I actually admire the American sloppiness from time to time. Yeah,
Right.
but I think that, well, so in a way, I think to make great advances or innovations like Google,
Right.
Apple, Facebook, you have to be sometimes really brave to make
Yeah. I
huge steps like
see.
that
I see.
without paying too much attention to the details. So I think we can probably make the best of both worlds in a way. The
Beautiful.
American approach to innovation has its merits in that you make great advances without paying attention to the details in the beginning. But the Japanese are good at paying attention to the details. So I think it happened many, many times in history. For example, General Motors and Ford, they kind of invented how to manufacture automobiles in large
Hmm.
quantities.
Hmm.
But then Toyota came into the picture and they
Hmm.
kind of perfected the process of manufacturing in their own way.
Right.
So I think there are merits to what you say, a sloppy approach to life, and also to the way that Japanese people have in paying attention to the details. So I think we should probably combine the both of these two approaches.
Mm. I love that. And no one's ever said that before. And that really enlightens me at a whole nother level. So there's a point where you need to be bold and not necessarily be obsessed with all the details for the sake
Yeah.
of making significant jumps and improvements in what you're doing. But at the same time, don't miss the beauty of the long-term thinking and the preciseness and the precision along the way. Don't abandon one for the other. Use one when it's
Yeah.
appropriate, and so forth.
That's right. I really admire America for its inventiveness, like SpaceX, Elon Musk,
Hmm.
all these wonderful new things. But I would predict probably in the future, space program might be helped by the Japanese approach too, in terms of precision,
Completely.
attention to detail. So I think it's a really interesting chemistry between
Right.
these teachers. So I really appreciate for your effort to make uh, these Japanese approach available to the wider world. You travel all over the world and you teach, and I think in a globalizing economy, we really we're advised to learn from each of us. The different
Mm.
cultures and so on. So I'm doing my job as a Japanese to make the principles behind Ikigai available to the wider world. And I suspect that you write your books, and I think without knowing, there would be some really good American inputs into your books because you are in this wonderful country. So that's why I think you are kind of spreading the American meme, so to speak, to the world too. So I think this conversation too is a very interesting exchange of ideas, and yeah.
I think it is so beautiful what you said. It almost brings tears to my eyes because what you're really saying so clearly and in such a humble way is that we just need to have this posture of learning from one another and never assume that we
That's right.
know it all. And
That's right.
I think it's beautiful, and this is really the key. And the spirit of the community that I teach with, the
Uh-huh.
lean community, is so amazing, Ken, because everybody wants to share, everyone wants to learn, and it's really just it's a beautiful thing. And wow, and I love that you articulated that, particularly being a PhD and being a scientist, and you feeling the need for this humble approach to life and learning.
Yeah, I can tell you a very funny example. When I go to the United States nowadays, people are crazy about Wagyu, Japanese beef.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, for an American dish, it's really expensive, like $100 per person. But yet people order Wagyu, right? But the opposite is happening in Japan too. People love American beef in Japan too. The red meat beef, and it's so different from the Japanese beef. But
Mhm.
some Japanese, including myself, love American beef. So
Mm.
Americans love Wagyu beef, and the Japanese people love American beef. So I think it's a kind of a love affair, really, to
Mm.
respect each different culture and
Mm.
appreciate its merits. So I think we can have both ways of communication, which is very
Beautifully
just,
said.
yeah,
And that really goes back to one of the fundamental principles of the Toyota production system, and that we talk
yeah,
about so much, is this respect for people. But what I've learned, though, in Japan, and this is a beautiful concept, you probably are very aware of this, but the Japanese have not only a respect for people, but they have a deep respect for resources. So they're
yeah,
very
yeah,
frugal in the way they manage things. They're not conspicuous. They're not conspicuous consumers, if you will. Certainly they can be a little bit, but for
yeah,
for
yeah.
their economic means, I think it's beautiful that they have a deep respect for resources and people. And I think this is a beautiful concept. And I think you articulated the idea of really we need to have respect for each other's culture and take what we can and learn and improve with that, which is really the spirit of Kaizen.
In the US, I know Marie Kondo is a big thing now.
Amazing,
She
amazing.
teaches how to, yeah, tidy up. And, but for Japanese people, her approach to respect not only people, but also your desk, your chair, the things you have in your household is something that comes really natural. So we don't regard items like, oh, here's a clock maybe. This clock, I have respect for this, and and this is Casio, so this is Japanese, good. People actually make this kind of item as if it is a person. It's people do have respect for these materials. So I think it's in the culture, Japanese culture, to pay respect not only to people but also to things in your neighborhood. So yeah, and as you said, I think that spirit has translated into system in modern times. And I've been to Toyota manufacturing, to see Toyota manufacturing process from time to time. The impression that you get is that people there are really happy to be working in the factories, and it's not like the modern times, the Charlie Chaplin film, where people are forced to work in an automation. It's quite different. If you go to a Toyota factory, people are behaving really in a relaxed way, no pressure. Everybody can stop the line if they feel something is wrong. You know all that. And so I think this coexistence of respect for people as well as respect for resources, materials, I think it is a hallmark of the Toyota production system. So yeah, you are right there, I think.
Wow, Ken, just so incredible. I love your passion and your insight and the way you see this all playing out. Let me ask you this as we kind of wrap the interview up. What advice would you give to the listeners about life in general? Here, you're a very accomplished individual, written so many books, a scientist, a PhD, and now this great book, Ikigai, which is just fantastic. And everyone should read it over and over again because it is just like so enlightening. What advice would you give to our listeners about life?
As we have been doing in this conversation, I think it's very important to listen to each other very carefully and to treat yourself not as a, perfect human being, but somebody with imperfect features, because imperfection in Japanese culture has been interpreted as the potential for growth. Sometimes people try to be perfect, but there's no scope for further growth in Mr. or Miss Perfect. Just because you're imperfect, you can learn from other people, and also you can, grow in yourself. So I think the greatest lesson of Ikigai probably is to appreciate and embrace your own imperfection.
Incredible. I've never heard anyone say that before. That is fantastic.
Because do you think? Yeah, yeah.
No, and the reason why you say that, I want to make sure I get this because it's so powerful. Because essentially, it is in the imperfection that you have the opportunity to improve. In perfection, there is no opportunity. So quit seeking perfection. Just seek to embrace your imperfection, which will lead you to another opportunity, one after another.
That's right. Paul, I think you are almost perfect. I think, Paul, you are. But I think in one of these days, probably if you count your imperfections on your plane to Kazakhstan or Japan, I think it will be a great time for you to reflect on yourself and
So you just said I need to count my imperfections.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be fun.
Fantastic. Ken, you are over the top. You exceeded all my expectations. Thank you for taking your valuable time and talking with us. And you know what I really hope? Well, I hope to meet you in Japan. That's what I really want.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
let's make it happen. We will make it. So you live in Tokyo?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, I will go out of my way. We'll stay in touch. And if we can pull that off, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ken, so much.
Let's do that. Yes.
Let's do it. We will.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Wow.